Welcome back. We are busy with the GoodX stock management training. We will do now the stock take. This is a long session. It's an hour session. Hopefully we can do it in 1 hour. But please immediately, when there's a section in this stock take that you don't understand, please immediately tell us that you don't understand that part, that we can go a few steps back. Because it's like math. If there is a basis that you don't understand, then the whole process is not going to make any, it's not going to help you. Then you have to go back to the beginning again, okay? So it must make sense, and please immediately stop us and ask us the questions in the live chat when there is a section or a part in this section that you do not understand. Okay, so the stock take process, I'm first going to show or explain to you the overview, and then we will go in a little bit more detail with each section in this one. Okay, so the stock take, if we look at the screen, you will always start at the beginning where before the stock take. So the stock take is divided into before the stock take, the day of the stock take, the process after the stock take, or after the stock count, and then the finalizing the stock take. Okay, so it's divided in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the adjustments, of course, but it's divided in 4 processes that you have to follow. Now, the first one is before the stock take. Now, before the stock take, there's a lot of different things that you have to get in place to make sure that your stock take is a success. Now, if we look at a learning center, I just want to open that for you. Stock take. On the learning center, you will see here is the stock take procedures, and it explains to you what you have to do. Now, it also shows you the important reasons why you will have to do a stock take and what stock take means. So for more information, please read through it, and it will give you a little bit background that we can not discuss in this section. So please go and read through it. Okay. But what is really important information that you need to know is that on every stock sheet, you have to have 2 signatures. So you have to go and count 2, but we will come to that information when we go to the day of stock take. So before this preparing for the stock take, step 1 is always inform the employees. So you have to inform the whole practice that on that day, say for instance Friday, you will do a stock take of the whole practice. So all of the personnel must know that you're going to do a stock take. Reasons for this, that they must know all of their work must be up to date. All the sales, the patient's work must be up to date. All the supplier work must be up to date. All the adjustments must be up to date. Credit notes, everything must be up to date before you can start your stock take. So inform the employees. If they have to work overtime when you do stock takes, inform them that they can make the necessary arrangements for them to be able to work overtime. Okay, so please make sure all the employees is notified that there is a stock take that's going to be happening. Then step 2 is all transactions must be up to date. You cannot do a stock take if you have still 5, say for instance, even 1 supplier invoice that you did not capture, because then your stock is going to be out. Even with the patients, if there's 1 file that you didn't put on the system, your stock is not going to be correct. Okay, so make sure all transactions is up to date. Then beforehand, say for instance 2 weeks before or 1 week before you're doing a big stock take, you print your counting sheets. Now when you print your counting sheet beforehand, you ensure and give that counting sheets to all of the personnel that is working in the different departments or different warehouses, and they have to check if the counting sheet is correct according to their shelves. So I'm going to show you on GoodX where you can print that information. So you go to stock setup, multi-item bin linking, print, and you say print counting sheets. first. And remember, always, everything that you do, you must do it on medicine and you must do it on material. So start with medicine, click on the warehouse, and always your counting sheet is per warehouse and per category. So then we say warehouse. So for everything, you must do it for each warehouse and each category. So then you look at this one. This is your counting sheets. You will see there's the items that is linked to this. And this is set up through your multi-item bin linking. Then you have your pack size, you have your packs that you're going to count, but always count in units. Now when you count in units, you must, if there is a closed pack, you can see on the pack there is 100, for instance, gloves in the pack. Then you write in the units 100. If you have 3 closed packs, you're going to write there 300. Okay, and the item is active. Now also you have to print this this counting sheet for materials and also for each warehouse. So if you go to medicine, you print each warehouse. If you go to materials, you print each warehouse. Okay, so then let's type Ivy Room and we say okay, and here is our Ivy Room counting locations. You will see here, it shows the counting location is pharmacy and the warehouse is Ivy Room, the category is materials. If I go to the next page, you'll see the counting location, Ivy Room, warehouse, Ivy Room, materials. This is just play data, so sometimes it won't make sense, but this is a nice example. Category, materials, warehouse is your Ivy Room, and then your counting location is your shelf 1. And this is the items that is in shelf 1. With the pack size, you need to print this and then give it to the personnel that I have to check if it's in the correct order and add the items, the items that is not on the locations, or remove the items that is not on that shelf anymore. So make sure they indicate it on the paper, send it back to the person who is responsible for linking the items, and then go into the multi-item bin linking and link the item to the location. So make sure your counting sheet is 100% correct before you start your stock take. And this is normally a 2-week before process. Make sure. And when you, if all of these counting sheets, if there is counting sheets that did not change, you can keep that. You don't have to reprint it again the day of the stock take. Only reprint the ones that you have to adjust. Okay. So you can keep that one. You don't have to waste paper and reprint everything. Only reprint the ones that you have made a mistake on. So now if we go back to our process flow. So we have informed the employees, we've captured all the transactions, everything is up to date, and we have printed our counting sheets. We've corrected the counting sheets that was incorrect. Now we're going to go to the day of the stock take. Okay, so now that's the morning of the stock take. Now I just want to show you the learning center again. You will see here, step 4 is your snapshot. Now, on our process flow, it says the first thing is print your counting sheets. So reprint the ones that you can't use and they have changed, or otherwise reprint everything. Okay, so print the counting sheets. Then you make a snapshot per warehouse. Now, what is a snapshot? A snapshot is a method in GoodX that frees your stock quantity at that date and that time when you have pressed that button. Okay. So that means when you are finished with the count and you're finished with you made your snapshot and you count your items, that must always go hand on hand. So when you press that button, immediately you must start counting. Okay, and there mustn't be a big delay between that two. After you have counted all your items, the rest of the practice can go on with their work. They can bill, they can receive stock again, everything can go on as it is supposed to be. While the person or persons who are responsible to capture the stock take into the system, is busy capturing that stock take. When they capture that values into the system, all of the other personnel can go on with their work. And then you can open your practice again and everybody can go on. After you have counted your stock and you have captured it into your system, when you consolidate and you post that stock take, it will post that variance on the day and the time the snapshot was done. So it will, you can say, ignore all the transactions that happened after the snapshot, date and time, and correct that quantity with that date and time. Okay. If the snapshot explanation doesn't make sense, please immediately put it into the live chat that I can explain it maybe a little bit better, how the snapshot works. Because if you don't understand the snapshot purpose, then you're not going to understand the rest of the stock take. Okay, so that's the, please tell me if you don't know or understand the snapshot. Okay, so with the snapshot, what happens there, let me just go to the learning center again that you can see. The snapshot takes the following items into account. All active items that is linked to the selected counting locations, even with 0 levels. So if the item is 0, the snapshot will also put that item into the snapshot if that item was linked to that counting location. And it will also put the items into the snapshot that had movement on that item and the item is not linked to a counting location. So even if that item is not linked to a counting location, that item will be included in the snapshot if they had movement and if that item is active. Now, this is a really important part that you have to understand when you're working with your variance, that certain items will not be part of your counting locations, but it will be part of your general bin. And that items must be checked, because otherwise, what is the system going to do? It's going to make it automatically 0. Okay, but we will come to that when we post the stock take. Now, from here, if we go to the stock count process, and that's the day of the stock take, you've made a snapshot per warehouse. Now, I'm just going to show you first in GoodX how to make a snapshot. You go to corrections. You go to stock take. Okay, let me just remove this one. Okay, just ignore this one. This is a previous one that we have done. Let me just make like this. No, okay. Just ignore this one. We will have a look at this one. But when you work with your snapshots, so the first thing, print your counting locations as we have shown you. Then what you're going to do, you say add new snapshot. Remember, per category, per warehouse. So you're going to say medicine, you're going to say warehouse. It will show you all of the counting location that is linked to this warehouse, and you say okay. It's going to run through. It will only do a snapshot or give the locations that items is linked to. The other locations doesn't have any items in it. And then again, add new snapshot, do the materials, choose your warehouse and say okay. Now immediately you can see here is my first snapshot. This is for medicine. It only had one counting location. Here is my materials. He had 4 counting locations. Okay, that has items linked to. So it's make sure that, and again, add new snapshot, materials, and then for the Ivy room. For each warehouse, you need to do this method. Okay. Now, you'll see the snapshots is grouped according to warehouse. And then underneath, it has the different snapshots that is not yet posted. Okay. So a snapshot per warehouse. Now, let's go back. When you start counting, that is your one after you have made a snapshot. When you start counting, you must make sure You give the counting sheets to the personnel. You divide the personnel into pairs of 2. Always per counting location, there must be 2 personnel counting together. So, or they can count together, or they can count and the other one check. Just make sure there is 2. There must be pairs of 2. Then they must count in units, okay, and not in packs. So they must count in units. And then where there's a full pack, as I discussed a little bit earlier, if there's a full pack, convert it to units. And then do not open the pack. You can read on the pack normally how many units is inside a pack. Remember the syrup and ointments and creams, if it's open, you have to guess how much is still inside the bottle or the tube and put that quantity in, if that tube or that bottle is in units. Okay, so please just make sure that you guess the milliliter or the grams that is still inside the tube or in the bottle, or otherwise if you have a scale that can weigh that exactly, it's much better. Okay, so please just make sure that open packs that you are counting the units correctly. You must write it in pen. You're not allowed to write it with a pencil. It must be written with pen, and both of the personnel that have counted that sheet, that counting location, must sign on the paper. Now, according to the auditors, you will need to speak to them on the processes that they need your practice to do, but most of the auditors will tell you that you have to count in 2s and you have to have a hard copy of your stock take. Now, when you do your stock count, you're not allowed to have an electronic counting sheet and put on that items on the Excel, for instance, the counted items, because you can change it afterwards. That's why you need a hard copy, and it must be in pen. Okay. So if there was any mistakes that you have done and you recount it, please just draw a line through it with a pen, and both of that personnel must sign next to that counting, that count that you have corrected. Okay. So please make sure of that. You can read through all of these points, and important, concentrate when you count. That is one of the most important parts of stock take. You must concentrate. If you need a calculator to assist you, or a blank piece of paper to try and remember, write down each 100 that you're counting and then add it at the back again together, then you do it like that. But set up your counting locations that you do not run from one location to another location and have to add that together. The system is doing that for you. So please make sure that if you have syringes in one drawer, that you keep that separate and you only count that drawer according to that page. Okay, so you do not run from the pharmacy or from room 1 and you count the syringes there and you run to the location 2 and you count it there. You stay at one location with one paper, one counting location sheet. Okay, please make sure that your setup is like that. Otherwise, the system, you will not use the system to its fullest and you will make mistakes. When you have to count here, oh, here is 10 and there is 20 and there is 50. I think it's 60, or is it maybe 70? Did I count the location in the consultation room? Now I can't remember. Okay, so please make sure that your counting locations is set up as your practice. So it must show a blueprint of how your practice, where your items is lying in your practice. Okay. Then you start counting. You count your stock. When you're finished with your stock count, you're going to have to do the third part. So let's go back to our flow of our stock take. So that's the day of the stock take. Print counting sheets, snapshot per warehouse, and count the stock in units. Now the process after the stock count. You have to capture your values. Now, make sure that you have received all the counting locations back. What a nice method is, keep a print out all of your counting locations, a list of your counting locations, print it out. You can do it from the system, and then you mark next to it when you receive that counting location sheet back. At the end of the day, you can immediately see which counting locations that you not yet received back and which ones that you not captured yet on your system. So that's a nice way of just making sure that you receive all of the counting locations back from the personnel. Okay, but now with the capturing of the units into the system, I'm just going to open GoodX again that I can show you. Okay, you start from the top. We are going to take materials, you take pharmacy, and you say capture values. Now, to ensure that you're not going to make a mistake, you can filter here and say, I'm busy with the main warehouse. Click there and say, I'm busy with snapshot 14. Let's take snapshot 15. That is my snapshot that I'm busy with right now. So then you know you're not making a mistake and putting in information into the system that is not the correct information in that location. Okay, so now we're going to say the first location that we have received back is the Ivy room. I click on the Ivy room, I say capture values, and I put in here the counted units that they have counted on the counting location sheet. The web calls that I have counted, the medium ones, is 200. Remember that you have to tap twice. So you type in the counted units, tap twice, that the line can turn green. If the line is not green, that means the adjustment will not post. Now, the snapshot values will show as a 0 on the counting locations. So with this step, the snapshot units is always going to be 0. The reasons for this is that the personnel that is putting in the quantity into the system are not allowed to know how much stock the system is supposed to have. Otherwise, they can just adjust. If the system says there's supposed to be 180 items and they have counted 200, then they can put in 180 and take the other 20 home. Okay, so here at this stage, the personnel are not allowed to see how many stock is in the practice. That's why the snapshot shows 0. Okay. So you put in all of them. Then you say close. It didn't post. It only has saved the information for you. Then you go to the next one. You say capture values. Then you type in for testosterone, 25 milligram. You have 10 of them. Tap twice. Go to the next one. The testosterone 100 milligrams vial. You don't have any of them. That doesn't mean you leave it. You type in 00 and tap twice. Otherwise, the line is not going to turn green. So if you type only 10, the line will not turn green. Okay, so please make sure that you type in 00, tap to make sure that line is also going to be adjusted. Now, if you do not show the system that there must be 0, the quantity on the system is going to stay exactly the same. So if there were a mistake on this item, the system is going to leave that mistake just as it is. Okay, so please make sure that if the item is 0 on that location, you must type in 0. Then you say close. You go to the next one. Double click or say capture values. Type in your stock units, tap 00 if the item was 0. Make sure everything is green and you say close. Okay. Go to the next one. Capture that values. Tap, close. Okay, so that is important. This is how you capture your values. Now, if you go back to the process flow, you need, after you have captured all your values, all of the values, then you need to consolidate. Now, the consolidate is also per warehouse. Now, the consolidate purpose is to take all of your counting locations. Is to take all of these counting locations, consolidate it into the general bin. And from there, you can see the variance, because your general bin is your posting bin. That's where all your movement is lying. Okay. So what the system does now is it go and see in the ivy room is 100 needles, and in shelf 8 is 100 needles, or say 80 needles. So that means in this practice there's 180 needles, depending on the size of the needles. Also, it's a really important part. If it's a pink needle or a green needle or a 22 gauge or a 28 gauge, it's important that you indicate which needles that you count and keep that separate. Same with gloves. Powder free must be separate. Latex free must be separate. Powder free but latex must be separate, depending on your items. Okay, so now we're happy. We have captured everything. Now we're going to consolidate. Click here on the top, select snapshot. We're going to select snapshot number 15. We're going to say consolidate. Are you sure you want to consolidate? Yes. Still, this did not post your stock take. You can still make adjustments in this snapshot before you post. So now it consolidated everything into a general bin. Now if you right click and you say print variance, it's going to show all of the items that was modified. It shows not linked to this bin, and it shows if this item is inactive or not. So if you go down, this 3 items was not linked to the general bin, but it did had movement in that item, or you did count that items in that counting locations, but it was not linked to the general bin. Okay, so just make sure you understand that. We're going to come back to the variance now. In this case, if you see you have made mistakes, you can still come here and say capture values. Just keep in mind that all of this counted units that you have captured here is 4 or 5 or 6 different counting locations added together. Just keep that in mind. Okay, that is the quantity per warehouse for the practice. So make sure that when you adjust this unit, that you are keeping that in mind. So now I can still adjust. So I can say 200. Oh, I didn't. The syringes is supposed it was 50 somewhere lying. I didn't count that. So now I can say in 50 extra. Now if I go to this one that I already captured in the previous location, there was 2 broken while we did the stock take. We're not going to do a stock adjustment now. We're just going to make it less. So I'm going to say 28. Just make sure you double tap that the system picks it up. And you see, I didn't make a mistake. Here was supposed to be 10. When I have captured, I didn't capture that 10. Somewhere I made a mistake. Then you type in the 10. Or there was only supposed to be 1 and I have put a 0 extra. You adjust it. Remember, tap twice. After that, you close. Now, if we go back to our process flow, you see here, we capture the values, we consolidate. Now it's the finalizing the stock take. Now, in the finalizing of the stock take, you will need to look at your variance report first thing. And that was the quick process I showed you. We're going to look at it now. Then you make your corrections, as I showed you just now. Make sure if there is any finger faults or anything that you miscounted, you must correct it at this stage. And then we're going to post the stock take. Now, just to go back to our system, here you have counted everything, you have consolidated. Now you're investigating. So you right click, you say print variance. Now on your variance report, you will see that you have the variance report is in a HTML type of report, of a type of print, so you can't adjust it here. So you have to go back to your capturing. Okay, so please just make sure of that. You can't adjust it here. Now on this report, you will see the not linked to this bin. If the item is inactive, the sequence on your counting locations, and then you have your system code, you have your code, your description, your full description, you have your pack size and the NAPI codes. Was the item modified, yes or no? And the white items will then have no, it wasn't modified. Then you have your cost per unit. The green one is your stock adjustment that will be posted. This is what the system is going to do when you say post stock take. Now the blue ones is the ones that the system says you're supposed to have. So that's the quantity that the system says you're supposed to have. The yellow ones is what you have counted and what you have captured into your counting sheets. And the green ones is the difference between the blue and the yellow. So the green is the adjustment to make the system the same as the yellow. So we say that you who have captured and have counted the items is correct and the system is incorrect because something happened, and then you put it into that. We adjust it to the counted units. Okay, so let's take an example. Say for instance, let's take the web calls. The system has told you there was supposed to be 200. You have counted 400. So what must the system do? The system must go and plus 200 to make it 400. So when you post it, the system will go and make an adjustment with the web calls with a 200 units. Now let's take this one for example. The system says you didn't have any stock. You have counted 28. The system is going to adjust 28. Okay, and then let's take a minus one. This one, for instance, this is a range-free part slip 5 milliliters. The system says you're supposed to have 39. You said you don't have any stock, so the system is going to minus that 39. Okay. So what you have to do with your variance report, you will always check the big value, rand value of the items that you have to adjust. Because, say for instance, if you look at the sleeve with glove, one is 2,000 rand. So you have lost, or we are going to adjust the system with 2. So that means it's 4,000 rand that you have to investigate. But if you look at an item like this one, it's only 93 cents. So the rand value is not a lot, but the quantity can maybe be a lot. Say for instance, the web calls. The system is going to adjust 200. Quantities is a lot, but the rand value is only 88 rand. Now, according to your auditors, you are only allowed to have a 5 till 10% difference. So if you have a look at this amount total on the bottom, and you have a look on the stock on hand value, this are only allowed to be between 5 and 10% of a difference of that big value in your practice. That will go through the auditors. If it's more than that, your audit report will be not approved, and then your practice can be closed. So make sure that you are 100% sure when you do your stock takes, and please remember the importance of this report. You will need to give this report to your auditors. Okay. Now, is there any questions according to the variance report? And if you don't understand it, please let us know that we can explain to you a little bit better the variance report. While you're busy typing your questions, I'm just going to tell you how to correct if you have made other mistakes. Say for instance, after you have made a snapshot, now somebody brings a stock supplier invoice, for instance, and they say, oh sorry, I didn't capture the stock invoice, I totally forgot about it, it was under my keyboard, I didn't see it. Then you need to adjust it. But now what is important, you need to go and capture that stock invoice, but it will not adjust your stock take snapshot. Yes, you must capture it because you have to bring up the outstanding amount that you need to pay to your supplier. Now, what you have to do, if you capture that stock invoice, after you have posted the stock take, the stock is going to be much more. So you need to deduct that items that you have counted that you have received from your supplier, you have to deduct that items from your count that you have counted, because you need to go and post that supplier invoice, and that will make your items more. So on the Learning Center, we have a nice explanation of how to handle this type of corrections that you need to do. I just want to see, finalize the stock take, editing the quantity. Here, under variance investigation, if you counted incorrectly, you can still make that correct. If you have not built all the patients files, you have to add that quantity to the quantity that you have counted. So say for instance you have counted 100, but you still have a file of a patient that you're supposed to build 20. You need to tell the system that you actually have 120 items still in your practice, because when you build that patient, the patient's account go up, but it's going to minimize your stock with 20 items. That means you're only going to have 80, and immediately your stock count is incorrect. So please make sure that when there is some cases that there comes files up or supplier invoices that wasn't captured or files that wasn't built, that you know how to correct this before you post your stock take. So actually you you tell your stock take, your count, that it's actually something else that you really have counted, just to make sure that you can capture your supplier invoice and your your patient billing. You can capture it afterwards, but this mustn't happen. Okay, you must please ensure that this type of work, of type of method, it's really for really good reasons. It must be a really big mistake. Okay, don't see this as a, oh no, don't worry, we will fix it on a later stage, we will fix it when we do the count. That's not the correct process. Make sure all of your capturing is up to date before you do that snapshot. Okay, so editing the quantity and finalizing your stock take is a really important part. Now the last part is posting the stock take, and when you post the stock take, I'm going to show you on GoodX. You have investigated, you have corrected everything, and now you click on it and you say post stock take. Remember, you have to do this whole process for each category, for each warehouse. Okay, so now I'm going to say post stock take. It's going to ask me, are you sure you want to post the stock take? Yes, I am. In which period do you want to post it? In the current period. You choose stock take. You say okay. The stock take posting was completed. So you click on the posting. Now you will see the snapshot is gone. You can still go to previous posted batches. There your snapshot is and what was posted, and you can say consolidate items, please show that also. So now you can see what was consolidated into that general bin. Okay, and then if you go into this and you right click and you say print variance, it will show you what was counted. It won't show you the variance on this part. It will only show you what did you count. Okay, if there was a mistake maybe. And if you go on the general bin and you say print variance, there it will show you the variance. Okay, what was counted, what the system has said, and the adjusted units. Okay, so it's important that you understand that and that you can investigate if something happened. On the system, if you go to stock and you go to your items, and you go to your print stock item info, you will see here under stock adjustments, what did the stock take down. Okay, and also when you go to print and you go to stock movement, here also you will be able to see the adjustment, and you will see here that this detail will be stock take. So immediately you can see here the stock take did this adjustment, and this adjustment will be balancing back to your green fields. Okay, please remember, to your green fields. So please just don't confuse yourself. If you look at your, I just want to put on the opening and closing balances of this item. If you look at this, let's see, the warehouse. I only want to see the warehouse. Please, this quantity in this column next to your stock type will not be the quantity that you have captured. It will not be your counting your counting quantity. It will be the adjustment that the system have done to make the closing balance or the running total on that time and date the snapshot was done. It will correct that running total to balance back to your counted quantity. So say for instance you only post your stock take 3 days after you have made a snapshot and they started working again. On that, the closing quantity will not balance back to the quantity that you have counted. Okay, so make sure that you understand that process is going to correct the stock at that running total with that date and time the snapshot was done. Doesn't make any sense, or it doesn't worry when you post that stock take. It will go back to the snapshot date and time, and it will put in the quantity that it need to adjust to make the running total quantity or your closing balance to that correct date and time. Okay, please, if this doesn't make sense, ask the questions immediately that I can explain it maybe a little bit better or give you some other scenarios that you need to look at. Okay, I just want to go to the learning center, see if we covered everything with the stock take. So that was the variance investigation, editing the quantity, and then you post your stock take. And here is the stock take process flow, just to make sure that you know exactly what is you have to do. So here is your post of your stock take, and we are finished with the stock take. So please, if there is any questions that you need to ask about the stock take process or anything with the stock take, please ask now. Otherwise, we will go on with the stock reports at 14:30, and then we will do the last part of the stock management, and that is your stock report, how to understand and how to read your stock report. Thank you very much.